Welcome to the Tech Savvy Professor podcast, which features two faculty members who love tech and love making it part of their work. I'm Marty, an associate professor at Kent State University.
And I'm Eric Perry, a program director and associate faculty at Divine Mercy University.
The next two shows, we're going to talk about something that kind of fell into my lap in the last week, and it's about doing a live stream. And you and I talked a little bit pre-show about what exactly does that mean. Mm-hmm. Let me set up the scenario that I'm attempting to do. I'm working with a group of international teachers, and we gave them the task of having to create. We take them through a tech, and they get exposed to a bunch of different technologies, some of it not available in their countries, some of it will never be available in their countries. But one of the things that we wanted to do, instead of just making it a show and tell kind of experience, was to say, we want you to create a project that fits within the context of your school in terms of access of hardware and software. And the project has to be one that tech solves a problem for you. To legitimize it, we gave them those Google or PowerPoint large poster design slides, and they had to put together a poster covering what is the problem, what is the technology they're going to use, and what ways are they going to evaluate it. So a 3-column poster. And we had them put these posters together, and we're going to be presenting those posters with them speaking about them live in a live stream online tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So the purpose of this is to kind of get them to put their ideas out there. They've got 12 minutes. We've got 21 people. We're going to be doing it all day long. And so I thought, in the past, we've used like Facebook, and it limits what we can do in terms of camera operation. One year I used multiple webcams, but the problem was when you're shooting a webcam of a PowerPoint presentation coming out of a projector, it gets all washed out. So we had to look at a system where we could combine all these elements. And this episode, we're going to talk about the software. And then next week's episode, we will talk about how the setup was and what the process was that occurred. Essentially, I need to have multiple cameras, one that is on the subject who's talking, one that's on the room just for ambiance. And I'm really thinking of doing a 360 camera for that, which would be interesting if I can get that feed working right. And then one that is essentially the PowerPoint slide that all gets combined into a feed that then goes out. And I've created a YouTube website for it for the purpose of just this stream. It's youtube.com/FTEA-KSU. And on there in the community section, we have the schedule and when people will be presenting. They have informed their friends back home. We've gotten the word out so alums can come in, which they typically do. They'll come in on the online stuff. They came in on the Facebook, and we'll cheer on their countries or their fellow folks and just watch to see what presentations they came up with. So that's the problem in front of me. And let's talk a little bit about options for software and how you can live stream if you want to live stream. I think maybe we start with YouTube. That may be a good place. Yeah. A lot of people are streaming on YouTube. And I did this a few years back where I live streamed an advanced counseling theories class, a couple of classes during the semester, because there wasn't advanced theories classes out there. So I thought I'd have some fun and see who'd show up. We did it with YouTube. We did it using a camera that was embedded in the laptop that we were streaming it with. It's kind of clunky in terms of having people around the room all trying to get into that little condenser microphone. Instead of having a better setup at the time, we didn't. So trying to work that way was a little clunky. I did and have used YouTube through the years for channels. 2 other podcasts that I do Vision Profiles and Circular Firing Squad that you're on, we're now streaming live during those shows and then saving them for archive on YouTube. And we do that because the YouTube has such good algorithms that they'll find your podcast through YouTube before they'll find your podcast through podcast servers.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a way of kind of connecting with folks and doing it live. You have any recollection of using YouTube? Any past experience?
I haven't, not for streaming specifically. Like I've watched streams and lives, but I haven't used it myself. And I know people have mentioned it can be a little clunky to get into.
Yeah, it's changed over the years too. So next year I'll look at the interface and it will be completely different than the interface I'm using this year. YouTube is got what they call a studio now interface. It still has the old screen where you can go to and set it up. I rarely set anything up in YouTube. I set it up in both of the podcasts cases. I set it up in Zoom and then send it to YouTube.
So I'm curious, like what's the advantage of using YouTube over streaming with something like Facebook or TikTok?
Well, for this case, I mean, I use Zoom and a combination of YouTube because if I put Zoom in speaker mode, whoever's talking gets the full screen.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to do that through Facebook or did you say TikTok?
Yeah, TikTok has the live streams.
Yeah, I do. I think for me, it's the same reason I don't stream on X,
Okay.
or Twitter. It's like the politics and what the platforms being used for. I don't want to use anymore. And Facebook because I really can't do multiple camera inputs and switch it around unless I'm manually doing that. And I'm too busy in the podcast to do that. So,
Well, and like you mentioned, there's a couple of other factors too, because some of these social media sites aren't available in other countries. So if you're streaming, you want something that's a little bit more widely used or
yeah.
accepted, so TikTok and Facebook aren't necessarily available in all those countries. And I think they're intended to be streamed from one source.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
something like YouTube that'll give you the kind of multiple lanes, multiple streams is helpful.
It doesn't necessarily give you multiple streams. That's where what the interface you use with it does.
Okay.
And Zoom does that. If you put it in full view mode, then you've got the Brady Bunch for the whole show.
Right.
And sometimes I forget to switch it. But if you put it in speaker mode, whoever's talking generates the feed in terms of the video feed. It comes from them. So it's more like a TV program that the camera's focusing on whoever's speaking at the time versus there's a whole group of people and somebody's mouth moving in the background must be the person that's talking. So it has that kind of advantage. I find it clunky to go in the front end and go to YouTube and start to create and start a stream versus being able to send it from whatever program I'm using to be able to start the stream. I've screwed up a couple of times doing it the other way. And now it's just, okay, we're doing this in Zoom, for example. I'm just going to choose the option in Zoom that will send a live stream out to YouTube. So I've gotten a little bit closer to YouTube, a little bit more understanding of the process. And it took me a couple of shows to figure out I need to start it through the software that I'm using, not necessarily, and send it to YouTube. Then it forces a screen up saying which channel do you want? I've got multiple channels, one for each of the podcasts that I do, and then I have my own channel. I actually had to add a fourth channel for this project that I'm doing tomorrow. And I had to have another phone number to do it with because it will only give you so many channels per account. Okay. So luckily I have a Mint Mobile phone number on my phone as a second SIM. And I gave it that and it allowed me to set up the count through there because all of the other channels are active. I can't delete them at this point. So, so there's some advantage in terms of YouTube just in terms of getting the live stream out. Of course, there's, 10 to 15-second delay. You do have built-in chat rooms so your listeners who are in the live stream can put comments in while you're doing the live stream and it comes up. So right now that's the place to go to. There are some other options and software. So the problem is, how do you get it from what you're doing to YouTube? Zoom is what I'm using now and what I have a tendency to use, but I'm looking at a couple of other options and have chosen a third party interface for this project that I'm going to do tomorrow. Zoom, as I mentioned, is one option. There's another option which I have purchased a subscription to called Ecamm. Ecamm is a high-end option. That's where your professional YouTubers are using it. Part of the reason is because it can take a much feed stream than you're limited to through things like Zoom or things like Facebook. So you can, if the people you're working with in a chat show, for example, have a camera that has a higher resolution and they have the bandwidth to send it to you, you can have much prettier looking output from doing that. It's costly for the professional level. I think it's $39 a month, but it has got all the kinds of, you can arrange the windows and then you can activate the cameras. You really are running a TV studio when you're running that. And at the same time, trying to manage your podcast or manage your video feed or whatever you're doing. So it can be kind of complicated. Let me also add to a little bit of information. YouTube will capture your stream and will save it on YouTube unedited, which is one problem. The second problem is going into editing it can take hours. YouTube's studio editor is really clumsy, takes a long time to set up. The feed kind of has to finish its processing before you can go in and edit clips out of it or pieces out of it. Most folks that I know who are doing this are using YouTube for the live stream, and then they're also recording it on their own device, doing the editing on their own device of the video, uploading it to YouTube and deleting the stream. So the video is stored there. Okay, I'm going to stop again because somebody decided to cut their lawn.
I can't hear it on my end.
Yeah, well, bugs the hell out of me. That's the microphone I got. It's very good, but it doesn't stop people from cutting their lawn when my window's open. Okay, 3. So to get quality video that you see as output on YouTube, it's never the stream that's been captured live and sent to YouTube. It's always ones that have been captured someplace else that have been edited and sent up. And that's what I'm doing with my shows. I did the first couple of shows trying to use the YouTube editor, and when I shared that with friends who have done this for years, they kind of laughed. And so we're doing it another way. And frankly, it used to take a whole night of processing to get YouTube video the way I wanted it through their studio, and I can do it in like an hour and then send it up and go to bed, and it's there by the morning. So that's something about YouTube. Ecamm allows you to do all of that and more in terms of the quality of the video that you see. So folks who are doing this for a business on YouTube are using things like Ecamm when they're doing chat shows and group sort of things. The last piece I want to talk about, well, you talked about Twitch. Why don't you talk about Twitch before we get into the software interface?
Yeah, so Twitch is another streaming service that folks might have heard of, maybe anecdotally, or maybe you do watch Twitch streams. There's tons out there. Twitch works in kind of a similar way, but it gets a lot of attention from gamers because a lot of the gaming devices will allow you to stream your gameplay through Twitch. And, you can record yourself while you're playing, and it shows both the game and the player. It's a live stream, so you can react there. It kind of serves as the conduit too. So there's a lot of different softwares that you can use to help. And I just have a couple of them here as examples that you can use. So OBS Studio, Streamlabs, Restream Studio is another one. Some of them are you have to pay for. Some of them are free and just help you with that kind of stream and image capture. Twitch is really designed, though, for the live stream. So you can capture those recordings, save them, but it's really designed for that live kind of experience. In fact, you'll see a lot of Twitch videos on YouTube. So they'll record or stream through Twitch and then pop them up on YouTube.
Yeah, as we see lots of TikTok videos in Reddit, and we see lots of, there's a lot of crossover with that in terms of that. Can you do multiple cameras with Twitch? Do you know?
You can, but I think it has more to do with the software component. So if you think about Twitch as like the platform you're streaming from,
Oh, okay.
you can use an additional software to kind of add additional streams or additional video sources rather.
Yeah, so with this problem, I wanted to try and first issue I did was I'm going to get myself a mixing board. And so I got a digital mixing board and tried to set it up on Friday and spent 2 hours trying to get the mixing board set up. And there are a couple of named mixing boards. I chose one that I really didn't know much about the product, and its price was okay. It was around $300, and I got it and then spent Friday trying to set it up to do a test run. And one of the things the mixing board does is you press a button and a menu comes up. And what you got is what you would imagine is in a TV production studio, where camera one is in this cell, camera two is in this cell, camera three, your meters are in this cell. It took me 2 hours just to figure out how to get that button pushed. I mean, according to the thing, you just push the button and it happens. I also had to download firmware, put it on an SD card, slide it in there, and let the firmware update the device. So I did a grand search looking for instruction books, which I hate to go to, but the instruction books, there was YouTube videos that were slammed together by people who knew the product or knew how to do it. They weren't done for folks who didn't know how to do it.
Right.
So they moved really quickly with the kind of things as you just press the menu button and the menu comes up. Having to dig, I found out that will only come up if it's in HDMI output 1 or 2.
Okay.
Not USB-C output or 3 or 4. It has to be those two outputs on it. So there goes 2 hours. Then I start plugging in webcams to do the shoot, and the webcams will not be recognized. They just, no matter what I did, would not recognize this device. So no power was going out to them to be able to, the dot comes on the webcam and it's working. Would not work. Would not happen. So I gave up. And actually, I posted a review to Amazon explaining the problems that I had with it, and just got an email today that it was posted, and I got a response from the company, and they're giving me a full refund, which is nice. Okay, it's like 30 days passed from when I bought it, but then I later saw other posts where people were saying there's no instruction manual for this. The company who produces it doesn't do any support for it in that way. So, the story ends good with that. But quickly, I searched and found a piece of software which is really pretty cool. And you mentioned it as one of the feeds for Twitch, Restream. So Restream.io, and it will allow you to organize your palette. And the cost is $50 a month. I don't plan on holding on to it very long at that cost. But you can get free accounts and test things out. You can't do everything with it, but you'll get an idea of how versatile it is. And it allows you to kind of pick your organization, and you add cameras in. You can add microphones in. You can add in your PowerPoint, so you can work through your PowerPoint in the thing. So my plan is to have, and then it streams out to whatever YouTube designation you give it. I think in the process it asks for the RMTP or RTMP. It's the code that you use that sends it to the particular stream and channel that YouTube. So when you go into YouTube and you set up a channel and you go to attempt to do a stream from it, there's a point where it gives you the RMPT, and that's consistent for that channel. So I copy and paste it and keep it in a document so I know where to find it. But that's what you paste into to get the channel to do its thing. So
yeah, and I thought it was interesting too because it'll allow you to stream to Facebook, Twitch, LinkedIn, TikTok, and YouTube. So you can
yeah,
multi-stream to multiple platforms at once.
yeah. And I can also, I mean, it has access to PowerPoint, or you can go to Google and get Google Slides to run on it through your Drive
Yeah, it's neat. It's
folder.
pricey, but I can see as if this is something you do regularly and
Yeah, I decided that you'd have some default backgrounds that are fine. So you have this full screen, you have a palette, which is your background, and then you have various windows that open up. The other part of it is as you open up cameras, the default is always the laptop camera, which I don't want because people don't need to stare at my face for all day long, nor do I want to be self-conscious about what's going on. But you can, once you add other cameras, you can go into the cameras and you can switch certain ones on or off. And those cameras then remain, the ones that are on remain in the output, sort of a sidebar of windows that have the various camera feeds on it. So we'll be able to do the PowerPoint, have one camera on the speaker, have another camera just on the room for the audience effect. I think the audio capture as it's set up comes out of the laptop, which is not good. I think I can switch that feed to the camera that's in front of the speaker as part of the setup, which is better. I might look at external microphones, and if I have, I'm bringing with me a deck where you can have multiple inputs in it that go then into the MacBook, so it'll expand my ports, and it's a Thunderbolt 3 or Thunderbolt 4 deck. So it's powered. So I'm bringing that with in case I need it, but I think I have enough inputs where I could put an external USB-C 3 microphone on it if I needed to, and just have that as a separate audio input.
Yeah, and Restream actually gives suggestions for mics you should use.
What did you find while we're...
Oh, yeah, one of them you mailed to me. So the Elgato Wave 3, HyperX Quadcast S, the Audio Technica AT 2020, the Razer Siren Mini, and the Blue Yeti X are the ones that they
Wow.
recommend.
Well, yeah, I'm using a Shure M7 Plus, and I have a Heil PR40. The PR40 has to run through an XL board in itself, and I don't want to overcomplicate it.
Sure.
I do have a very small Shure microphone that came with or I bought it as part of a camera arrangement to be used for doing like on-the-go podcast or vodcasting or podcasting. And I might bring that. It's sort of like a mini Shure, and I think it's a USB-C 3, so that might be the go-to with it. If if I draw directly from the webcam, I'm using a Brio, Logitech Brio, for the main one webcam. And then I have what? Yeah.
They give recommendations for those too. So
what do they say?
The Logitech HD Pro C920.
Yeah, I've got one of those.
The Logitech Stream Cam, Microsoft Life Cam HD 3000, the Razer Kiyo, Kiyo, and Logitech Brio. So those are the ones they recommend. And they actually say, like, they give in the order that I read them from least costly to most. Mm-hmm.
I am going to see about trying to do a 360 camera. I've got one of those, and Insta 360, and might set that up so for the full room recording so people can see that. But I haven't used that before much. And the second Logitech, if it works, it works. It'll work fine enough.
Mm-hmm.
No sense in getting fancy and messing up the obvious in the process. So next week, we'll talk a little bit more about that setup. And for those who are interested in doing live stream, and we'll look into it. Anything else about the software that you can talk about?
No, I think there's a lot of great tools out there. The couple other ones that I mentioned too offer some free tiers if you need some software. or you just want to try them out, OBS Studio and Streamlabs, but their premium versions tend to be, a little bit more pricey. But it's good to have something.
Yeah, I think you get what you pay for.
Mhm.
I have accounts with some of these, and like I'm running Ecamm, which a friend of mine kind of did a quick training on it for us, and then I didn't pick it up soon enough to remember the training. But that has a bit of a learning curve. I'm really liking this Restream. I just don't know if I can use it. I'll have to try it if we can do it in a podcast and see if I can bring in external multiple inputs. That's the thing with like Ecamm, you just give the person the URL,
Mhm.
and they just log into the URL and they become one of your inputs that you mix with Ecamm. Whereas I'm not sure how that'll work with Restream. So yeah, I still have yet to decide, but I need to settle on one. And then I'm willing to pay for it because it's good to have good tools. I just don't need 4 sets of tools that I'm not using.
Right.
Cut down on the income on that. So next week, we'll talk a little bit more about the experience. Maybe, Eric, you can play around with some stuff and figure out, maybe even look into some of the free options. OBS, am I right with that?
Yeah, OBS Studio.
OBS is very popular. PC folks talk to me about it. I think it has its own kind of clunkiness that goes with it too sometimes.
Yeah, and I think a lot of these were gained a little popularity when Twitch Studio kind of died on Mac. But yeah, that might be one I'll try.
And I think users generally want to set it and forget it kind of experience. They don't want to have to, in the middle of doing a live stream, figuring out what's going wrong.
Mhm.
And we'll see. I mean, I haven't run Restream this way before. So we'll see. And I'll report back next episode about how that went. And of course, if you have questions, you can always email us at thepodtalknetwork@gmail.com. And we'll take your question and talk about it and try to come to a solution in the next episode. Look for us on Spotify, TuneIn, Apple Podcasts, and all other podcast servers. Our bumper music is from Philip Gross, Rast, from the Free Music Archive. And everything you need to know is at thepodtalk.net. Eric, any final words or well wishes or things you're getting into?
No, but I do have a list of tech that I'm waiting for Cyber Monday and Black Friday for. So I'm going to be upgrading some things, and I imagine around the holiday season we'll have some good stuff to talk about.
Yeah, I'm really curious about the list. I'm not going to I'm not going to force you to reveal it on the show now, but I'm curious what you're looking into to get.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, my impulse control is so low that obviously I buy digital mixers that don't work for me. Thank God I'm getting a refund on it. That I think by the time it rolls around to the holidays with all the tech releases,
Mhm.
that happened before the holidays, people are like, what do you want for Christmas? And it's like, I really don't need anything. Yeah, I already bought it. I spent the bank account on it. Please don't get upset, but make me some cookies. Everything you need to know, as I said, is at thepodtalk.net. Look for other shows like Circular Firing Squad. Eric, are you going to join us again on
I'm going to be back.
CFS?
Yeah, I'm going to be back in the game. So the fall ball is over. So I'll be back to CFS here shortly.
Yeah. And I think our next show is going to be this Sunday. Yeah, we didn't do one last Sunday, so this Sunday. And look for a new show on spatial computing called Vision Profiles. Even if you don't have a Vision Pro headset, we talk about Meta, talk a lot about Meta, but we also talk about what's going on in trends in terms of AR and VR headsets. That's it for this episode. Thanks for subscribing to the Tech Savvy Professor.